25 billion outstanding pending bills in the county government of Bomet that I represent. And therefore, if there is anything that this House has done as a matter of at least attention, is it has passed a resolution to deal with this very serious issue on pending bills. Senator Maruma has made reference to what is called voiding. Voiding, Mr. Speaker, is an act that our irresponsible county governments do in order to make sure that they don't pay validated and bills which are due and are actually supposed to be paid. What they do, they void them so that they pay those who are compliant. Compliant in the sense that they're able to pay back a certain percentage of what is due from the county government to them. We should therefore do expect the committee that this particular statement will be commissioned to deal with, ensure that besides just the specific county government of Bungoma, deal with the substantive aspect on this issue on pending bills. It has been there. It will continue to be there, because even the resources that we allow and send out to the county governments, I do expect that, for instance, as long as we speak about it, they will know that they are being watched, and they will therefore undertake a responsible act of at least making it a fast charge on the funds that are paid to them.
Senator Chemite Cheberet.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to address the House. Mr. Speaker, it is my first time to have this opportunity. It is my first time, Mr. Speaker, to be given time to say something, and you have gotten me off guard, Mr. Speaker, because I didn't expect you to ask me to say something. Mr. Speaker, I'm still learning, you know. In life, we learn slowly, and it's a process. So within no time, I'll be able to catch up, and I'll be a good debater in the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much.
The Audit Advisory Board shall generally be responsible for providing advisory on budget plans and estimates. You will see at B, it says human resource management and development, then any other matter that might be referred to the board. Speaker, this is what the judge said. That having an audit advisory board is an interference with the institutional and individual independence of the Office of the Auditor General. That it alters the constitutional architecture of the independent Office of the Auditor General and the principles of independence contemplated by the Constitution. It also violates Article 249(2)b, which states that he is an independent and not subject to direction or control of any person. There can be no doubt that the function of the Audit Advisory Board to advise the Auditor General in the performance of his functions under the Constitution violates the constitutional values and principles of independence of the Auditor General in Articles 229 and 2492. So, if indeed this bill was brought in order to conform with this decision of the High Court, my argument is that, Honourable Speaker, we needed to do away entirely with that Audit Advisory Board, because as the court has observed, Honourable Speaker, it interferes with his institutional and individual independence as an independent office in the Constitution. So therefore, Honourable Speaker, that particular section for me has to go. And I'm hoping that when we come to the Committee of the Whole at some point, we shall have amendments to this bill to align it properly with what is stated as the objective in the Memorandum of Objects and Reasons. So, Speaker, let me move to another issue that I wanted to raise with the bill. Not everything is doom and gloom, but because they expressed it as a bill to conform with this particular judgment, we have to make sure that it complies, otherwise it will suffer the same fate. Speaker, I am very happy. There's a provision there under Clause 26 of the bill that now grants the Auditor General independence in terms of initiating forensic or investigative audits. When people appear before us at the County Public Accounts Committee, sometimes, Honourable Speaker, we see a need for forensic audits, especially where there is grave suspicion that public money has been lost. The previous law was that forensic audit could only be initiated from a request by Parliament or from Parliament. So the Auditor General could not undertake a forensic audit on their own. They had to get a request from Parliament and its committees for them to initiate that. What this is doing is that it is giving the auditor a free hand. So the new section there says the Auditor General may, on his or her initiative or upon request, conduct forensic or investigative audits. And the removal of the word Parliament after request opens it up, Honourable Speaker, to request from other agencies, not just Parliament, and that they can do it sui motu or on their own accord. Honourable Speaker, there is also provision under Clause 28 for the Auditor General to conduct compliance audits to examine whether a public entity has complied with relevant laws, regulations, and policies. That is important because it is not just about money and the financials. These are what we call compliance, compliance audits are compliance with laws. And the best example I can give you, Honourable Speaker, is that, I'm the SG of ODM. We also have compliance audits by the Office of the Registrar of Political Parties. And the last one that was conducted on all political parties in Kenya, the report from the ORPP states that ODM is the only political party in Kenya fully compliant with all the laws that govern the operations of political parties. And I'm very proud of that, Honourable Speaker. I don't want to mention any other party. I can see the way the Speaker is looking at me. I might get into trouble. Honourable Speaker, at 38C there, it also provides that the Auditor General may conduct any other audit that she or he may deem necessary for the better carrying out of his function. So those are provisions that I find are going to be very, very useful. There is provisions of timelines at Clause 29, which proposes to amend Section 39 of the Principal Act, giving us 6 months after Parliament or the County Assembly has made recommendations. So, for instance, Speaker, we made recommendations here to county governments. And in fact, the process that we've been doing right now is to follow up on those recommendations. And Speaker, you will recall that we as a Senate had to pass a special motion for us to be able to continue to engage with these entities, for instance, the county governments, for them to give us follow-up on recommendations. Now, here they have been given a period of 6 months that they have to, within those 6 months of the recommendations being passed, they shall submit a report to Parliament, now to us, on how it has addressed the recommendations of previous year's audit. And this is a matter that I believe is going to be helpful in terms of aiding transparency in the work that we do, both as a Senate and specifically as the County Public Accounts Committee and the PIC. Then, Honourable Speaker, another issue here is at Section 43, one of the issues that the public has really been raining on us, not just as the Public Accounts Committee, but also as a Senate, is that we make all these good recommendations, Honourable Speaker. They can see we are doing our oversight, Speaker. But then they ask, where is the output? Because we have struggled to explain to them that we also depend on other agencies for us to be able to bring, say, rogue governors to heel. You are aware that we had to summon the IG of police, for instance, before the Public Accounts Committee and ask him to give the assurance that if Senate wants or requires the presence of a specific governor, that his office is going to be able to deliver. Sifuna, as Senator of Nairobi, I have no powers of arrest. That's not to mean some of these governors, I don't have the desire to arrest. If I had those powers, Honourable Speaker, some of these people would be in jail. But we depend on other constitutional offices. So if you see clause 43 there, it says where the Auditor General establishes that any person, supplier or audited entity has been involved in fraud or corrupt practice, the Auditor General may collaborate with other investigative, enforcement, regulatory and oversight agencies, including the National Police Service, Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, ODPP, and Public Procurement Administrative Review Board, and even the National Treasury for their action. This, I believe, is going to help us, Honourable Speaker, because previously the reports of the auditor just come to us as Parliament. Then we make those recommendations. This act now is giving the Auditor General a mandate of actually collaborating directly with these people. For instance, the collaboration with National Treasury, in my expectation, is the Auditor General should be able to tell them, the National Treasury, to stop funds going to entities that are found to have misused public funds, or to the Public Procurement Administrative Review Board. You can see there, Honourable Speaker, at subclause 2 of 43, that the Auditor General can actually make recommendations for debarment. Because in my time in the Public Accounts Committee, there are notorious companies that always show up. For instance, in the area of these systems for revenue collection, you will find one entity has brought problems in Nairobi. Then the next time you interact with NAROC, you find out that NAROC has actually given that same company the job of collecting revenue on their behalf. Then you will find them springing up somewhere in Muranga, because previously we have not had the Auditor General's authority to be able to make these recommendations for debarment of some of these firms so that they stay away from public resources. Then, Mr. Speaker, I think those are the ones that I have identified as positives, but we will be hoping that we can have conversations about the negatives that I have pointed out, especially stemming from the judgment of the High Court, so that we actually align this act with the judgment. Our biggest fear, Honourable Speaker, as people sworn to defend the Constitution, is certain pronouncements, especially from people in executive authority, both at the national and county levels, castigating these independent offices. Speaker, we have had words being thrown by very senior individuals in this country, at Margaret Nyakango, for instance, at the Office of the Auditor General, at the Office of the Control of Budget. And we fear sometimes when we see such legislation, Honourable Speaker, that there could be a motive to either stifle the operations of that office, to cripple them, or to be able to control them for some reason. Because you will see, for instance, that advisory board, Honourable Speaker, one of the issues that was raised even in the petition and in the judgment is that it was very heavy with, national government officials. In fact, the court had a problem with the Attorney General being a member of that advisory committee because, as you know, the Office of the Attorney General is also subject to audit by the Office of the Auditor General. So we have reason to be skeptical because some of the headlines that we have been seeing coming from the control of budget are not very flattering to the executive. For instance, when we saw the reports on the Social Health Authority and the billions of shillings that she's pointing out, or Talanta Stadium, we have to be very careful, because we are sworn to defend the Constitution, that some of these amendments don't come or don't end up fettering on the independence of these offices.
Senator Enoch.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for granting me this opportunity to also add my voice to the bill on Public Audit Amendment 2024. Mr. Speaker, I will be very brief, and I just want to limit myself to the issue captured in the bill on repealing Section 25 of CAPO 41211. Mr. Speaker, first things first. The Office of the Auditor General is a constitutional independent office established under Article 229 of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. Mr. Speaker, let credit be given where credit is due. Human beings, individuals, give character to offices. The lady Nancy Janet Kabui Gadongo has given character to the office of the Auditor General during her term of office. She has, in the eyes of the public, done extremely, extremely well in holding public entities to account in as far as the management of public finances is concerned. Mr. Speaker, when you see a proposed amendment that seeks to establish a board, the Audit Advisory Board, Mr. Speaker, then you smell a rat. Because then the question to ask will be, what advice does the Office of the Auditor General need from people sitting outside the office on how to carry out their mandate? The Speaker, as Senator Sifuna has mentioned, one of the persons that is supposed to sit in that board, the proposed board, is the Attorney General or a representative from the office of the Attorney General. The Attorney General office is a public office, Mr. Speaker, that draws money from the exchequer, so it's a subject of audit by the Office of the Auditor General. And one wonders then, if the Attorney General is sitting in the advisory board to advise the Auditor General, what advice will that office give when it comes to auditing their own account? What advice is the Attorney General supposed to give to the Auditor General on an audit of the office of the Attorney General? Mr. Speaker, that's a serious conflict right there. Mr. Speaker, the real poison in this amendment for me is now when you define the roles of that advisory board. That it is supposed to advise on budget plans and estimates for the Office of the Auditor General. Mr. Speaker, you know the best way of killing an institution, an independent institution, is to deny it the necessary tools, including the budget, to undertake its mandate. And now, you're bringing in a board that is supposed to advise the Office of the Auditor General on what their budget for their own operations is supposed to be and to look like. This board, the proposal is, it should also advise the Auditor General, or the Office of the Auditor General, on the management of their human resource. Mr. Speaker, from where I sit, there's a reason why this office was established. And the framers of the Constitution were very clear on why they needed the independence of the Office of the Auditor General. And one of the things that was very, very clear is that this is an office that should be able to check on the expenditure of public resources by persons that the resources are assigned to. Trying to bring a board to advise that authority, Mr. Speaker, that office, is actually watering down the effectiveness of that office. And Mr. Speaker, we should be ready to draw parallels from outside the country. In the United States of America, Mr. Speaker, there is a Government Accountability Office which operates within the legislative branch of the federal government of the US. And that office, Mr. Speaker, is given a single term of 15 years, non-renewable. So they are able to carry out audits without interference from the executive. The president of the US, a friendly country that we shouldn't make a lot of comments on, is has a problem with congressional auditors. But I've never seen any people from a side of government bringing an amendment to the office of the Government Accountability Office because they don't agree with the things that she says. And that lady, Oris Williams-Brown, has been very firm on her audits, just as much as our own Nancy has been very firm on our audits. Mr. Speaker, my plea is that whatever happens to this bill, I want to urge my colleagues to be very, very cautious in accepting the establishment of a board, an advisory board, to the office of the Auditor General. Whatever we do with this bill, let us ensure that instead of watering down the operational capacity of the office of the Auditor General, we should enhance that capacity. And the best way of doing it is to reject the establishment of an advisory board to that office. And least of all, Mr. Speaker, even if the worst was to come to the worst, and these members here would agree, and I don't see them agreeing, to the establishment of the board, then the Attorney General or his office can never sit in that board, Mr. Speaker. You cannot sit as an advisor to an office that is supposed to audit your own operations. Mr. Speaker, with those few remarks, I support the bill, but with amendments to remove that board from the proposal. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Wakili Sigei.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this particular bill. And Mr. Speaker, I want to, before I make my comments, appreciate the Senator for Nairobi, Senator Sifuna. He's done justice to this law, particularly on the basis of the objective of the bill, because if indeed it's true that it is founded on the desire to comply with the pronouncements of the court, that has not been fully done by the provisions that are in this bill. Mr. Speaker, I therefore fully associate myself largely with the comments made on the clauses that the Honorable Justice Mwita, in his judgment, had pronounced himself on how the law should be interpreted and how the office of the Auditor General should be treated, because it is a constitutional office. Mr. Speaker, this office is a very important office. It is a sacrosanct office, and that is why it is founded under the provisions of Article 229 of the Constitution. And Mr. Speaker, it's not only Article 229 that speaks to the office of the Auditor General. Article 248 makes reference to this office as the only other independent office besides the office of the Controller of Budget, over and above the constitutional commissions. And therefore, that reference of this office as an independent office is in itself very, very critical. And beyond that, again, Mr. Speaker, the reference to the office of the Auditor General under Article 252(3, that gives it the mandate among the few of offices that are granted the mandate and the order to order witnesses to appear before it and testify on any matter, gives it also the additional independence and the importance of the office, and therefore we should jealously protect that independence to the extent that whichever law that we are seeking to amend, to introduce, it must be a law that improves it and not that diminishes the office of the Auditor General. The appointment of the Auditor General in itself, a very highly guarded office. The appointment must be subjected to Parliament. It must be approved by Parliament. The holder of that office sits in that office for a single term of 8 years, non-renewable. Those requirements, Mr. Speaker, and the process leading to the holder of that office being appointed gives it the importance. And therefore, even as we debate the proposals to amend this 2015 law, we must be alive to the fact that at the end of it all, this office must jealously be protected by all of us in order to make sure that we give it the independence that the Constitution gives it. And Mr. Speaker, this House, largely what we do as an oversight House is emanating from the report of the Auditor General. And therefore, in fact, largely the business of this House, if the office of the Auditor General were to be watered down in its mandate, then we'll have no business to do. The county governments that we oversight almost on a daily basis as regards the misuse of public funds and resources will definitely be having a field day. And therefore, even as we support this bill, we must be very cautious of protecting the independence of the office of the Auditor General. And if there is anything that seeks to take away even an inch of that mandate, Mr. Speaker, that will be a sufficient ground to reject any of such provisions. And even if it means largely the entirety of the proposals to amend, Mr. Speaker, we should, as a House, be ready to do that. Mr. Speaker, the proposals under this bill, the Public Audit Amendment Bill 2025, now to be specific on the various clauses, are some supporting and enhancing the mandate of the Office of the Auditor General. Some are giving a guide as to the management and administration of that constitutional mandate. And of course, we would support, and I would support such particular proposals. But then there are some clauses, Mr. Speaker, which we must either amend in the committee of the whole or totally reject them, because we must protect this office. And I will, Mr. Speaker, attempt in the time available to me to look at those particular clauses which we will support and which I'll ask the members of this House to support where necessary, and those which we must reject or amend in order to protect the sacrosanct office of the Auditor General. Mr. Speaker, the proposal under Section Clause 5 that seeks to amend Section 7 of the original Public Audit Act is a provision that is seeking to strengthen the purpose and the office of the Auditor General. Mr. Speaker, it seeks to introduce a Clause 7CA that requires the Auditor General to satisfy himself or herself in terms of the utility of the public resources that a government entity has been mandated to utilize. And it introduces a clause to the effect that the office, or rather the Auditor General, must ensure that they are satisfied that the resources have been used in an economic, efficient, effective, transparent, and sustainable manner. That introduction of that clause, Mr. Speaker, speaks to the language of the Constitution that says, or that requires of government agencies to make sure that the resources that are given to them are utilized in a manner that is transparent and sustainable, among others. And such a proposal, Mr. Speaker, is welcome and is supported. Further, Mr. Speaker, the introduction under Clause 6 of an additional provision that repeals Section 8 of the original Act and introduces a new Section 8 gives the mandate of the gives the mandate to the office of the Auditor General without delegating. Previously, the law provides that the Auditor General can delegate, subject to the provisions of Article 234(5) of the Constitution, some of its role. This particular proposal, therefore, takes away that delegation and in itself affirms the fact that the office of the Auditor General is an independent office, and therefore, as the accounting officer, whatever decisions that are to be made can only be made by the Auditor General and not delegated to any other officer within or without the office of the Auditor General. The introduction of subclause 8G is an introduction. It's a new introduction. It provides that the Auditor General, as part of his or her mandate, is to conduct and prepare audits on human resource in the public service. Mr. Speaker, this is a new introduction which is highly welcome because besides the normal audits that we normally do, the scope of the audit that the Auditor General can conduct in public institutions has now been extended to human resource. Remember, there is a provision, Mr. Speaker, later on that I'll come to, where we are talking about county governments having ballooned in terms of employing. They have become employment bureaus. They've gone beyond 35% that the laws allows of their shareable revenue, and some even beyond 55%. This provision will allow the Auditor General to conduct human resource audits on our public institutions, the public service, and even the county governments, because county governments are subject of the Auditor General's audit. And secondly, the introduction of sub-article 8H, where the Auditor General is allowed, in consultation with the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, to establish remuneration and benefits of each member of the staff. Previously, this was not fully recognized, and therefore the recognition of the role of the Salaries and Remuneration Commission similarly enhances the role that independent commissions will give to the office of the Auditor General. Notwithstanding the fact that it's an independent office, it is in law required to consult with SRC when it's seeking to establish the remuneration and benefits of members of the staff. Mr. Speaker, there is only an introduction that will render that particular section unconstitutional if it is not repealed. That is introduction of section 8.2. This section 8.2 is the one that establishes the office of the Audit Advisory Board. Mr. Speaker, I'll still come to this in a short while, but having this particular clause under 8.2 renders that entire clause unconstitutional because it is subjecting the Auditor General to seek advice of the Audit Advisory Board. That alone takes the independence of the Auditor General, which is provided for in the Constitution, away, and that subsection 2 of the new section 8 is going to render the whole act, or rather bill, unconstitutional, and therefore that should be deleted, that should be amended. If not, it will make the whole act unconstitutional. Now, under the newly introduced Section 8A, that introduces the office of an individual or a person called Head of Public Service Human Resource Audit Directorate. I want to disagree with my colleague Senator Sifuna on this one, because this particular directorate is under the office of the Auditor General. It does not take away the independence, and this person is supposed to be the person supporting the Auditor General in managing the structure of that particular office. And this is introduced under Section 8A, which is new, and it is directly under the office of the Auditor General. So this person reports directly to the Auditor General, and therefore it does not in any way take away that independence which we are saying should be maintained, should be protected, and any law that takes it away will definitely be unconstitutional. Under now 8B, which is a new clause also, this is the one that speaks to now the establishment of what Section 8(1)G on public human resource public audit. This one says the Public Service Human Resource Audit Directorate, this newly introduced office under the office of the Auditor General, is going to be responsible for conducting and preparing audits on human resource in the public service. Mr. Speaker, I have already submitted that counties have become employment bureaus. If they are not audited, if they are not controlled, they will be bureaus that only conducts employment, and it will balloon their wage bill, and there will be zero or no reduced development vote because of the human resource that takes away the options that we have. It will also help by creating this particular directorate under the office of the Auditor General, enhance what we would call affirmative action in the persons to be put into that office. We have county governments, as I've said, which have employed persons beyond that which the system can absorb, and it has completely eaten into the development voted of their countries. And therefore, if they will be enhancing the scope of the office of the Auditor General to ensure that they conduct audits on such public offices, this will also help this House and help the public in ensuring that we don't just employ because we have got resources. We employ because there is need, and we employ in compliance with what the law requires of us as institutions, Mr. Speaker, to do. The amendment to Section 11 of the Act by the newly introduced Clause 9, Mr. Speaker, under B, provides for a timeline within which the office of the Auditor General, when it falls vacant, should be filled. And the timeline which is provided for notification of this expiry of the term of the office of the Auditor General provides for an opportunity for succession planning. And that is a welcome provision that will facilitate replacement of that office within the requisite timeline, and it does not anticipate a vacuum in that particular office. And having it in law will help to ensure that that is fully complied. And by providing under the newly introduced Section 11D, the proviso to the effect that such an appointment should and must be appointed strictly within the timeline. This one also does not contemplate an existence of a vacuum in the office of the Auditor General. Mr. Speaker, the proposal under Clause 11 that seeks to amend Section 14 of the existing Act is equally a welcome move. The introduction of subsection 2 that requires the office of the Auditor General, where this advisory board that reports, because the new proposal in the Act says that the Auditor General shall be the chairman of the audit board. This audit board, therefore, reports and takes instructions from the office of the Auditor General. And therefore, where the Auditor General is required to seek advice, the law as it is proposed here uses the word may. In that case, it means it gives the Auditor General the discretion whether to seek for that advice or not to seek for that advice. That way, we are still maintaining the independence of the Office of the Auditor General, and we are not going to allow any other third party or any other board for that matter to direct the Auditor General in any particular way. Mr. Speaker, Clause 17 of this bill seeks to amend Section 20 of the Act by providing that any audit report that is submitted or made available by the Auditor General must be given to the entity, and a copy of that particular report be availed to the National Assembly or the respective county assemblies. And that was not available in the previous law. This means, therefore, the law as is recognizes the role that this particular House seeks to establish. I would, however, propose an amendment that the reference to a copy of the Auditor General's report should not only be submitted to the National Assembly alone, they should be submitted to the Senate, because this House also has a mandate to oversight. This House also has a mandate to look at those audit reports, especially of institutions like county governments. The drafters must appreciate that the law, or rather the Constitution, recognizes that the language should be Parliament rather than reference to National Assembly and the Senate. So I would propose that this particular introduction of Section 20A include submission of the report to this House. Mr. Speaker, the requirement that that particular report also, where the, actually let me read, because this is very important in terms of budgetary allocation to the Office of the Auditor General. It provides that, Mr. Speaker, if the expenditure provided under subsection 3 of this section are in the opinion of the OAG insufficient to allow the office to properly carry out its mandate, the Auditor General shall submit to the Speaker of the National Assembly and the Speaker of the Senate a special report to be presented to the committee responsible for matters related to budget and appropriation. Mr. Speaker, this provision is being introduced to safeguard on the funding of the Office of the Auditor General. Remember, we have on very many occasions had the Auditor General complaining that they have insufficient resources allocated to them, where the law now allows them to submit a special report to you and the Speaker of the National Assembly. And the next available avenue for you as the Speaker and the counterpart Speaker of the National Assembly is to have the relevant committee enhance the budgetary allocation. This way, we will be supporting the Office of the Auditor General in terms of the budgetary allocation. And this is a new and important introduction to the law that will enhance the allocation of the budget and support to the Office of the Auditor General. Mr. Speaker, under Clause 25, this is the clause that establishes now the Audit Advisory Board. And the only reason why I would support this particular clause, Mr. Speaker, is to the extent that it provides that the chairperson of this board is the Auditor General himself or herself. The previous law had provided that upon the establishment of this board, the first business of that board will be to elect from among themselves one of them to be the chairperson, and directly and expressly excludes the Auditor General. That is where the problem is, because they will be actually undermining the office of the Auditor General to be subservient to a chairperson of the advisory board when the Auditor General is a constitutional office. But now this amendment says clearly and expressly that the chairperson of this board is the Auditor General himself or herself. However, I entirely oppose the inclusion of the Attorney General in this particular board. For obvious reasons, my colleagues have stated that the office of the Attorney General is audited by the OAG, that is the Auditor General.
Conclude your thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There is no way we will have the Attorney General sitting in the advisory on the office of the Auditor General. For obvious reasons, this person reports to the Auditor General in terms of the audit. Therefore, we should delete the requirement of the person, a representative of the Attorney General or the Adjournment General himself to sit in that particular audit, advisory audit. As long as the Attorney General is not there, then we will pass as is. Other than that, Mr. Speaker, the introduction of the other members. Previously, there were 6 members of this audit advisory board, which was an even number. In this, it was just an even number. But right now, the amendment has reduced the number to 5, meaning they can make decisions because it is an even number. Mr. Speaker, this particular bill is a very important bill, if only we amend the various areas where they are not compliant with the Constitution. Otherwise, if it goes as it is, Mr. Speaker, I am sure it will be rejected because it will be unconstitutional in a number of the aspects. Mr. Speaker, I had so much, but because of time, I will stop at that. Allow me just to mention one more important. The introduction of the new Section 38A. This Section 38A allows the Auditor General to conduct their own independent audits without any request by either Parliament or any other person. This particular one also facilitates periodic citizen accountability. Citizen accountability, Mr. Speaker, has previously been in form of frameworks, but the moment it is in law as it is right now, residents, citizens will be able to participate in audit of projects at the lowest level of representation, that is at the ward level, because the Office of the Auditor General will have an avenue to conduct audits where citizens are allowed to participate in the process of conducting audits without necessarily being a subject of a framework that has got no basis and not anchored in law. This introduction will be very important. Mr. Speaker, with those many remarks, I support this bill subject to the amendments on the various clauses which I and other colleagues have said, because we need to protect the independence of the Office of the Auditor General. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
Senator Maruma.
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika kwa kunipa fursa ili kuchangia huu mswada wa marekebisho ya sheria ya public audit. Mheshimiwa Spika, nichukue dakika moja kuelezea kidogo ya kwamba katika uangalizi wa matumizi ya pesa za serikali kuna taasisi mbalimbali za kufanya uangalizi. Mheshimiwa Spika, katika county kuna county assembly ambayo inaangalia uangalizi wa gavana na mawaziri, na wakati mwaka umeisha wa fedha, ibara ya 229 inasema ya kwamba kufanya uhasibu na mhasibu mkuu ama auditor general, na kumewekwa wakati wa kufanya uhasibu ya kwamba kufikia Disemba tarehe 31 ya kila mwaka mhasibu mkuu au ametoa ripoti, na hiyo ripoti kufika kwa bunge ya Senate, kufika kwa bunge ya kitaifa na kufika kwa bunge za magatuzi. Mheshimiwa Spika, mhasibu anafanya kazi nzuri sana, kwa sababu wakati matumizi katika kaunti yametekelezwa, basi mhasibu anatembea na kukutana na gavana na mawaziri wake na kuuliza maswali ya matumizi ya pesa za kaunti, na wakati ni taasisi zingine kama mashule, university ambazo zinatumia pesa za serikali zinafanyiwa uhasibu. Mheshimiwa Spika, nimekuwa katika kamati ya uhasibu kwa miaka kadhaa, na zile sheria ambazo tunategemea ili kufanya uangalizi ama oversight, Mheshimiwa Spika, ya kwanza ni katiba ya Kenya ambayo tulipitisha mwaka wa 2010. Mheshimiwa Spika, ya pili ni ile sheria inaitwa Public Finance Management Act, ndio inayotusaidia pia kuangalia kama pesa zimetumika kwa mujibu wa sheria. Sheria ya tatu, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni ile inaitwa County Government Act, na pia kuna Cities and Municipalities Act ambayo ni sheria tunayotumia katika kuangalia matumizi ya pesa. Na ya mwisho, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni hii inaitwa Public Audit Act ambayo inafanyiwa marekebisho, Mheshimiwa Spika. Wakati sheria imetungwa na hili nyumba, manake nyumba ya bunge kazi yake ni kutunga sheria, wakati inatumika, Mheshimiwa Spika, saa zingine kunakuwa na zile gaps na kuna pendekezwa kila wakati ipigwe msasa ili itumike vizuri, Mheshimiwa Spika. Wakati uhasibu umeisha na mhasibu mkuu, zile ripoti zikitengenezwa, Mheshimiwa Spika, bunge zinaletwa bunge na bunge wanaita wale watu ambao walitumia zile pesa na kuwauliza maswali, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa sababu kama kuna matumizi ya pesa ambayo hayakufanyika vizuri, ni huyu mhasibu ambaye anaangalia na kusema kwamba hapa sheria ama fedha hazikutumika kwa mujibu wa sheria, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mara kwa mara, Mheshimiwa Spika, tunapata ya kwamba magavana wanakataa kuja kujibu maswali ambayo yameulizwa na huyu mhasibu, lakini ni kisheria kwamba kila gavana ambaye anatumia pesa, assembly ambayo inatumia pesa, Mheshimiwa Spika, na zile taasisi zote za serikali lazima zije bunge ili kuja kujibu maswali, Mheshimiwa Spika. Nilikuwa naangalia kipengele cha 25 ambacho hii sheria imesema kwamba kibadilishwe, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa kutengeneza bodi ya kutoa mawaidha kwa mhasibu mkuu. Nimeangalia na nimesoma hii sheria na sijaona ni kwa nini mapendekezo kama haya ya kutengeneza bodi ya kutoa mawaidha kwa mhasibu yanatokezea. Kwa sababu hii bodi tukiangalia inaweza pelekea kupunguza nguvu za huyu mhasibu mkuu. Mheshimiwa Senator wa Bomet amesema kwamba hakuna shida yote, ni wewe chair, sikuangalia kwamba wewe umesimama kwa kiti umeketi, ya kwamba yeye akiwa kama mwenyekiti wa hiyo board hakutakuwa na shida yote na kwamba anaweza fanya kazi yake kulingana na sheria. Lakini kama kutakuwa na hiyo board na katika wakati wa kufanya mikutano lazima kuwe na ile inaitwa quorum, ama wale board members wafikie namba fulani, kutatokea namna gani kama watu wamekataa kwenda kwa hiyo mikutano? Itabidi ya kwamba hiyo bodi haitaketi kwa sababu ya quorum, na kazi ya mhasibu mkuu inaweza pata pigo, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hivyo mimi sijaona yale mapungufu katika ile sheria ya 2015 ambayo yanapelekea kufanya marekebisho na kuweka board, Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna sheria na sheria za wahasibu ama auditors wako na watu wao wa kuangalia kama wanafanya kazi vizuri, Mheshimiwa Spika. Na kwa hivyo sioni kama kutakuwa na maana yote ya kuweka hii bodi ambayo ukiangalia tena hii bodi ambayo imewekwa kwamba mkuu wa sheria pia awe hapo ndani kwa hiyo board, na yeye mwenyewe anatakana kufanyia uhasibu na mhasibu mkuu. Hapo, Mheshimiwa Spika, tunasema kwamba kuna conflict of interest katika hii sheria, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hivyo mimi nitaunga mkono haya marekebisho ya sheria, lakini la mno, Mheshimiwa Spika, ni lazima tuangalie, tuifanyie marekebisho ili mkuu wa sheria ambaye anatakikana kufanyia uhasibu asiwe pale ndani katika board ambayo inafanyia uhasibu, ofisi ya mkuu wa sheria, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kipengee cha 8(b), Mheshimiwa Spika, kinasema ya kwamba kuwe na hiyo wameita Directorate of Human Resource ambayo itafanyia uhasibu wafanyi kazi katika serikali. Mheshimiwa Spika, tayari kunafanyika uhasibu katika county, serikali za county, kunafanyika uhasibu katika wanaofanya kazi ama watu wanaofanya kazi katika serikali ya kitaifa. Sasa sielewi ni kwa nini ama kulikuwa na mapungufu gani katika ofisi ya mhasibu ili kupelekea kuwa na directorate ya human resource. Mwaka uliopita, Mheshimiwa Spika, kaunti zote 47 zilifanyiwa uhasibu na kuangalia wale watu ambao wanafanya kazi kwa kaunti, na kaunti zote saizi ziko na report ambazo, Mheshimiwa Spika, kamati ya bunge ya uhasibu ya Senate imeletewa hizo report tayari, na wakati wowote tutaanza kuita magavana ili watuelezee yale makosa ambayo yameonekana kutokana na uhasibu wa huyu mhasibu mkuu wa fedha. Kwa hivyo sielewi yale mapungufu ama gaps ambazo yalikuwa katika hii sheria ili kupelekea kutengeneza bodi kama hii, lakini tutaitazama kwa ukaribu ili kama tutaelekezwa na ile kamati ambayo iko, wakiona kuna umuhimu basi tuiache hapo. Mheshimiwa Spika, mhasibu mkuu amefanya kazi yake kulingana na mimi, kazi yake vizuri, ingawaje kuna wahasibu hapa na pale ambao wako na mapungufu, lakini kijumla ofisi ya mhasibu mkuu ama Auditor General wamefanya kazi nzuri na wameangalia mahali pesa zimepotea. Kila wakati wanatoa report. Kwa mfano, tuliona kwamba bilioni 11 zimepotea kwa ile SHA na taasisi zingine, Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa hivyo kama kuna kitu hii nyumba ambayo inafanya uangalizi ama oversight tunaweza kusaidia mhasibu, ni kuangalia kwamba tusiweke chochote ambacho kitapunguza nguvu za mhasibu, ambacho kitajaribu kuchakachua ile kazi ambayo inafanywa na mhasibu mkuu mkuu wa Kenya. Kwa hivyo mimi moja kwa moja, Mheshimiwa Spika, langu ni kwamba wakati sisi tunafanya uangalizi, zile taasisi zingine ambazo tunategemea ili kufanya oversight yetu ama uangalizi, ambayo ni huyu mhasibu mkuu, kuna EACC, Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna DCI na kadhalika, tujaribu kuangalia zile sheria ambazo zinapitishwa zisipunguze makali, zisipunguze nguvu za hizi maofisi. Kwa hivyo, Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi naunga mkono kupigwa msasa kwa hii sheria, lakini tuangalie ya kwamba kama tutaangalia vile vipengee ambavyo vinafaa kurekebishwa, kwa mfano kuondoa mkuu wa sheria katika bodi hii ya advisory board ya audit ama ya Auditor General, basi tuitoe na hii sheria itakuwa nzuri ya kufanyia kazi ya uhasibu wananchi wa Kenya. Mheshimiwa Spika, yangu hayatakuwa mengi. Tufanyie marekebisho hii sheria ili, Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu ni sheria ambayo ni ya kina sana, ni ya muhimu sana katika kufanya kazi ya uangalizi ama oversight. Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kwa huo muda, nashukuru.
Thank you, Senator Maruma. The chair was tempted in the course of your contribution to remind you as a seasoned member of the House the provisions of Standing Order number 92. And maybe for the benefit of those who are here, you probably ought to give in Swahili what gaps mean. That is what you said, directorate, as well as a conflict of interest. I picked those three in the course of your contribution, which you were doing in Swahili. And of course, as a member, you know, the chair exercises discretion to permit you to continue. Otherwise, you are required to entirely run your contribution in the language that you chose when you started your contribution. Before I allow the next member to contribute, I have communication to make. This is a communication on visiting delegation from the Kenyatta University Youth Alliance of Kenya. Honorable Senators, I would like to acknowledge the presence in the Speaker's Gallery this afternoon, visiting delegation from the Kenyatta University Youth Alliance of Kenya. The delegation comprises 15 student leaders and 10 members drawn from different county chapters who are visiting the Senate for an academic tour. On behalf of the Senate and on my own behalf, I extend a warm welcome to the delegation and wish them a fruitful learning. I thank you and welcome to the Senate. As is the custom of this House, I will give the next person to speak, and as you speak, Senator Murango, you are next, Senator Onyonka. I've seen your hand up. The person allowed to contribute is Senator Murango, and before you make your contribution, in under 1 minute, take a moment to welcome the visiting delegation from the Kenyatta University Youth Alliance of Kenya.
Asante sana Mr. Speaker. Nataka kuwakaribisha wanafunzi wa kutoka muungano wa chuo kikuu, na nitaongea kwa Kiswahili kwa sababu pia unajua mimi ni mkereketo wa Kiswahili. Na niseme kwamba katika hii nyumba ya Seneti tunafanya mambo mengi, na hakuna jambo ambalo linamzuia nyinyi kuwa hapa wakati wenu utakapofika. Kwa hivyo masomo ni mazuri, na mtasikia leo, nadhani itakuwa ya manufaa kwa watu wote wa Kenya. Asante sana Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, ukiona mti mara mbili msituni ujue umepotea. Na Mr. Speaker, mti ya chui zizini haishiwi na kilio. Katika marekebisho ambayo tunafanya kuondoa nguvu ya mkaguzi mkuu wa hesabu wa serikali, itakuwa na madhara mengi sana, kwa sababu sijaona ni upungufu gani ambao unapelekea kuja kufanya marekebisho kwa sheria. Ya kwanza, mwanasheria mkuu anapata fedha zake kutoka pochi mfuko wa serikali. Kwa hivyo katika kuchunguzwa na kuangalia kuhakikisha kwamba ametumia fedha za umma vizuri, anafanywa na mkaguzi mkuu wa hesabu wa serikali. Sasa kumweka pia katika ile bodi, Mr. Speaker, ni sawasawa tu na kuweka mbungo katika bodi ambayo itakuwa inapeana ushauri kwa wale wanaangalia na kutibu ugonjwa wa malale. Kwa hivyo Mr. Speaker, mimi sitasema tufanye marekebisho. Ningesema ya kwamba yule mkaguzi mkuu wa hesabu Nancy Gathungu amefanya kazi nzuri sana, na kwa sababu hatujaona upungufu, kwa nini tutunge hii sheria ya kuja kuweka vikwazo venye mhasibu mkuu anafanya kazi? Na kwa hivyo mimi ningesema tunapofanya hii sheria tuondoe kabisa kuwa na bodi, kwa sababu sioni maana ya bodi. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, mwanasheria mkuu na ofisi yake ni ofisi kubwa sana nchini, na ukiangalia mkaguzi mkuu wa hesabu ya serikali inakaa kama ni ofisi ndogo. Mr. Speaker, unajua chuma cha Suezi haiwezi kushindana na sukuo. Kwa hivyo ukiweka mwanasheria mkuu kukaa ofisi moja na mkaguzi mkuu wa hesabu, kwa sababu mwanasheria mkuu anatakuwa ndio anakaa kwa ile bondi ambayo inapeana ushauri, na shindwa itakuwa ni vipi wakati atapatikana kwamba ametumia vibaya fedha za umma, na ndio mshauri mkuu ambaye anafaa kupeana ushauri katika kupatia mkaguzi mkuu wa hesabu ushauri. Itakuwa tu ni njia moja, kwamba kabla sija kupatia ushauri, ondoa jina langu katika ratiba na majedwali ya wale wamefunja pesa za umma. Kwa hivyo Mr. Speaker, mimi hiyo pia napinga. Na nikimalizia Mr. Speaker, lazima kama nchi tuache hii tabia ya kuweka bodi kwa kila kitu. Farasi ya kifa tunaleta bodi moja ichunguze kama anaweza fufuka. Bodi ya pili ione kama farasi anaweza zikwa. Hizi bodi nyingi ambazo zinatengenezwa kupitia sheria zinanyonya fedha kidogo ambayo nchi iko nayo. Na kwa hivyo kama tuko na mama moja ama wawili kama tulie naye katika kama Nancy, kwa nini tusiache afanye kazi yake bila kuingiliwa na kuwekewa mabodi mingi ambayo haina maana? Na hizi bodi Mr. Speaker, ukiangalia sana mwishowe zinakuwa hizi bond ni za kupatia, zinazawadiwa wale watu ambao wameanguka na wameshindwa na kufanya siasa. Kwa hivyo mimi nikiulizwa Mr. Speaker, ningesema zile bodi zifutiliwe mbali. Hata ningeulizwa ni nafasi kwingine nikuje na order ya taasisi na bodi zingine ambazo zinafaa kuvunjwa. Ukiangalia zile bodi tuko nazo Mr. Speaker ni nyingi sana. Zingine unasikia mwenyekiti wa bodi kwa matanga na mashishi unakutana ni wengi kushinda wale wanaomboleza. Hawa watu ndio wanaenda hata kwenda kufunja pesa zetu zaidi. Na ndio nasema hizi bondi ni sawa, ni sawia na wale watengeneza jeneza ambao wanaenda kulia sana matangani na wanakuanga biashara za kuuza jeneza. Asante sana Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Murango. Senator Onyonga Richard.
Ndugu Speaker, hata mimi ningependa kutoa heshima zangu kwa ndugu zangu ambao wamezungumza kwa lugha ya taifa, ambayo kila wakati, ndugu Speaker, ingekuwa vizuri pengine siku zingine tupate nafsi kuzungumza kwa hili jumba ili tuzungumzie haya maneno. Jambo la kwanza, ningependa kuunga ndugu zangu ambao wametoa ubishi kwa hii sheria ambao inataka kubadilishwa. Mimi kama mmoja wao wa kamati ya hela na fedha nchi yetu, Finance Committee, tulimuita Mama Nancy, tukamuuliza, fikira zako wewe kama kiongozi ambaye anakagua matumizi ya fedha za kiserikali na vile tunaendesha nchi yetu, unaonaje kama tungetafuta kamati ambayo ingekuja iketi, ili ukishatoa ripoti yako ndio watakuwa wanakupa mawaidha kukuambia huwezi kulifanya hivi na huwezi kulifanya hivi. Kwa hivyo ningependa ndugu Speaker kusema, kwanza ukienda kipengee 12 cha pili, nasema kuwa lazima Auditor General atafute mawaidha kutoka kwa Audit Advisory Board. Yaani ile kazi ambayo Auditor General anafanya sasa, chumba hiki cha Senate, haja yetu ni kupanga vile tulete maofisa wengine, ili mhasibu wa hela za kiserikali akishamaliza kufanya audit yake, hao ndio watamwambia. Watakuwa wanamwambia nini? Watakuwa wanamwambia, ukishapata mtu ameiba hela za serikali, huyo acha yeye, kwa sababu huyo ni mtu mkubwa, huyo ni jamaa ambaye anasaidia serikali. Kwa hivyo wachana na hayo. Jambo la pili, wanasema kutakuwa na senior deputy auditor, yani naibu, ule auditor ambaye, ndugu Speaker, wakati huu ana naibu wawili haswa, na hamna mtu ambaye ametoa kelele kuwa hawafanyi kazi. Hakuna mtu ambaye ameleta hata kesi kusema haki zangu zimedhulumika. Sababu ya kuleta hii nafasi ati kuna mtu ambaye atakuwa naibu ya yule mama ni kwa sababu wanatafuta mchungaji, yule atakaanachunga. Ule mama akienda likizo, huyo ndio wanamleta, ndiye anapiga zile deal zao, wanapiga huko ndani. Tunajua vile wanaiba hela za Kenya. Ndio sababu wanataka kuleta deputy. Na hamna mtu ameenda kotini akaleta ubishi. Kuna sababu ya huyu mama ambaye anasimamia na anafanya kazi ambayo ni ya kushtua. Kama angekuwa mwanaume, najua pengine angekuwa amenejificha kwa vyo. Sasa tunataka kumletea, kwa kizungu tunasema gatekeeper, yule mtu ambaye atakuwa anamchunga. Ndio sababu ya hii kipengee kuletwa. Ukienda 13.1, Senior Deputy Auditor General shall be the principal assistant to the Auditor General. Nani alisema yule ambaye anafanya kazi na huyu mama wakati huu wana shida naye? So kwa sababu gani unaleta mtu mwingine ambaye atakuwa anamchunga huyu mama ambaye amekuwa akifanya kazi nzuri? Jambo lingine wameleta kuwa shall be, by deleting paragraph A, ukiondoa A alafu uilete hii paragraph unataka kuleta, ndio nasema ati kuna huyu jamaa ambaye sasa tunamweka ndiye atakuwa naibu wa Auditor General, ambako kazi yake ni kufanya kazi kikatiba. Kazi gani hiyo anaenda kufanya kikatiba? Kwa sababu Auditor General, PFM Act inasema fanya audit kila mwaka, tumepewa masharti ya kufata, na hiyo audit inakuja inawekwa kwa hili jumba hapa. Ni sababu gani tunataka kuintroduce mtu ambaye atakuwa deputy wa huyo mama ambaye tunaye vile na vijua Kenya yetu, hii nchi yetu nzuri tunaipenda? Sababu ya kuleta hivi vipengee vyote ni kutoa yale madaraka ya kikatiba ambayo inafanya huyu mama anafanya kazi yake kwa kiheshima na kwa kisheria. Mpige kelele, msipige kelele. Kama itakuwa 1 term ama 2 term, mkiiba atawaambia mmeiba. So hivyo ningependa kusema hivi vipengee zote zimeletwa hapa kwa ukora na ukorofi. Tuachilie huyo mama aendelee kufanya kazi yake, kwa sababu sheria imehudumu na hii sheria yetu ndio tunajaribu kupigania. Asante ndugu Speaker.
Senator Onyonga, thank you for your contribution. I am not seeing Senator Kajwang in the House. He ought to be the next, and now in the absence of Senator Kajwang, as well as the mover of this motion, the leader of majority, I will defer reply on this motion to the next sitting. So reply by the mover is hereby deferred to the next sitting of the House. And with that, I call upon good. I'm just confirming from the order paper of today, order number 11, order number 12, order number 13, and 14, as well as order 15, are subjects of committee of the whole, and therefore we cannot proceed because there is no chair around, and therefore I defer those order number 11 to 15 to the next sitting. Order number 16 is also deferred because the chair of JLAC is now, he was truly chairing the Senate. He ought to have been the one moving that motion. That is also hereby deferred. Order number 17, order 18, order 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and order number 26 are equally deferred because the movers are not present in the chamber. May the House rise now. Now, honorable senators, on conclusion of the business of the House, there being no other business on the order paper, the Senate stands adjourned until Tuesday, 17th of March, 2026 at 2:30 p.m.
Let's dispose of orders number 9 and 10. Then we go to order number 8. Clerk.
Order number